Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Tonight's guest is somebody that was on a couple months ago. We did the NHL preseason podcast. He's one of my best friends. Stephen Bouhadana, how are you doing on this fine Monday night?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on again, Madison. It was fun doing the preseason point totals, the over-unders, and it's going to be fun to go over what's happened in this season, especially with these realigned divisions and what I think is going to happen this postseason.
Yeah, the postseason's on right now. We both have Boston, Washington on our TVs. We'll just start with that series. Obviously the Caps won game 1 in overtime. It was a nice goal by Nick Dowd. They went up 1-0 in the series. Now it's a 2-2 game in the second period. I think we disagree on where this series is heading. Tell me where you think this is eventually going to go and why.
I feel like this can go one of two ways, but I think in both scenarios, you will see the Capitals moving on to round 2. I think either the Caps can probably win it in I don't know. I see the Bruins winning 1, and then I don't know. I either see the Capitals winning it in 5 or the Bruins taking it to 7. But I really think we're going to see the Capitals move on. I also think that if it makes it to round 2, depending on what Vanecek's health looks like, I mean, they could really make a strong push, if they make it to round 2 and what he could do for the team, just because he bears such a heavy weight, on the Capitals as their top goaltender.
Yeah, that is certainly a big part of the Capitals' success of Vitek Vanecek as a rookie. He was outstanding this year, and Ilya Samsonov has shown some promise this year as well. Now, Craig Anderson is their starting goalie in this game, and then he replaced Vanecek in Game 1, obviously the former Senator, and now the third stringer for Washington, obviously had playoff experience with Ottawa. I actually think that the Bruins are going to win this series in 7. That was my pick before the series. I'm going to stick with it. This was my toughest pick, Steve. Out of all the series, this was the hardest one for me to pick, because I think these two teams are very even. They're both deep offensively. Obviously, you have Marchand and Bergeron and Pasternak on one side, and then Ovechkin, Backstrom, Oshie, Kuznetsov on the other. Defensively, I think both teams are good. John Carlson leading the way for Washington, and then for Boston, obviously Charlie McAvoy. The funny thing about this is that Zdeno Chara used to be on the Bruins and played his whole career in Boston. Now he's on Washington playing against his former team. So I think that's a funny little subplot here to monitor in the series if he has any big moments for Washington or whatnot. But to me, even before the Vitek Vanecek injury, I thought that the big edge for Boston in the series was in net because of the experience of Tuukka Rask. Yes, he's had some playoff disappointments in his career, but he also led the Bruins to the Stanley Cup final back in 2013, in which they lost in 6 to the Chicago Blackhawks. Vitek Vanecek has never played in the postseason in his life, and obviously Saturday was his first start. Meanwhile, Anderson's had playoff experience. As I mentioned, he took the Senators to the conference finals, Game 7, and they lost to your beloved Pittsburgh Penguins in Game 7 on that overtime goal by Chris Kunitz. That was so long ago. Yeah, Craig Anderson was the starting goalie of that team. So, at least he has the experience there at Washington. I do think this goes 7. I won't be surprised at all if the Capitals win, but I think that it's going to be Boston in 7. That's just with my gut. Even with Anderson and net for Washington, I still think this goes 7. The other game that's on right now is the Predators and the Hurricanes. It's a 1-1 hockey game. I believe that they are entering the second period very shortly. Nashville went up 1-0 on a goal by Philip Forsberg, and then Carolina tied it. Let's see who the goal scorer was. I forget who it was. It was somewhat of a soft goal led up by Juicy Saros. Oh, it was Teuvo Teravainen, the former Blackhawk. So that's a 1-1 game over on channel CNBC. So that's being played at the same time as this one, and they've been showing live cut-ins through the intermissions of these respective games. How do you think this Nashville-Carolina series is going to go?
I don't know. I really like the Hurricanes, and I like what they have going on. I especially like how good Nedeljkovic has been for them this season. considering he was part of their AHL affiliate, the Checkers, for so long, and then won the Calder Cup with them I want to say 2 years ago, which was when Coach Bellucci went to Wilkes, and is now in Pittsburgh. But I like what they have. I feel like the Hurricanes could probably take it in I don't. It's tough to call because we want to say like, oh, so many game sevens, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like if they really gain momentum, they can take it in 4 and 5. But it's just so hard to call. I also feel like the Predators in the postseason play so well up until they get to a certain point where they kind of just crash, and that's it. And so you're kind of looking at the Hurricanes, who, like, when they have momentum, they're able to sustain it. And so I would really love to see them move on. But again, it just, for me, I feel like all the difference is always made up in that defense and in goaltending.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Hurricanes in 6. I think that Nashville can steal 2 games. Nashville's been there and done that in the postseason, whether it's Juicy Saros or Pekka Rinne and net. Saros was always the one that came in and was the savior whenever Rinne would flop. And then Philip Forsberg, I said this in our preseason episode, but he's someone that I thought was a disappointment player in the regular season the past couple years, never really living up to expectations. But he's a fabulous, fabulous postseason player, and he scored a goal tonight to give the Preds a brief 1-0 lead. So I do think that the Preds can steal a couple games. I'm going to go Canes in 6 because of that great offense led by Teravainen, Sebastian Aho, and all those fun players they have down there. Jordan Stahl, the ex-Penguins on that team. And Andrei Svechnikov, who was the number 2 overall pick in the draft a few years ago. So I'm going to go Carolina in 6 as my pick for that one. All right, let's talk about your team, the Penguins, and their series against the Islanders. The Islanders win Game 1 in overtime, 4-3. Kyle Palmieri with the game winner. Isles up 1-0 in the series. How do you think the rest of that series is going to play out?
That's a tricky question. I mean, obviously, I want to say the Penguins will take it, in 5 or in 6, but we just don't know. I feel like you're going to see the Penguins play a lot more of a heavy forecheck game rather than heavy on defense, only because they're trying to protect Jari, but at that point, you're almost sacrificing shots rather than, you're playing so defensively that you're not getting shots off. And so they just, it was a battle in the neutral zone. They let the Islanders, get away with a couple soft ones. And I mean, watch the highlights. It's all glove side on Jari. So it's just stuff that, you have to watch, and hopefully, looking at DeSmith if he'll make a return, but he's been absent basically the whole week from practice, so we probably won't see that. But I'm hoping they can pull through. I think the Penguins just really need to gain momentum and use home ice to their advantage, rather than just letting little things like this just get away. And now you see the Islanders up 1-0.
Yeah, the Isles are up 1-0. I think the Pens still in the series. I predicted Penguins in 6. I'm going to stick with it. I did predict on my show on Friday when I did my series predictions that the Islanders would win either Game 1 or Game 2 in Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh would steal one at Coliseum, and then it would be 3-2. Penguins up 3-2, and then they close out the Coliseum in 6. I'm going to stick with that prediction. I think that Jari turns it around a little bit. Crosby, I think, is the best leader in the sport. He'll get that team going. I think that the Islanders will miss Andersley eventually. And a big loss for the Islanders, by the way, is their goaltender, Semyon Varlamov. He's out for the series, as we know of. And Ilya Sorokin.
That's huge.
Yeah, Sorokin played respectably well, I thought, but he's never been in the postseason before. It's similar to Jari, although he did start a game against Montreal last year, and Vitek Vanchek. And even if it was Varlamov, I probably would have said Pens in 7 if Varlamov was healthy, but Varlamov's not healthy. That's a concern for me, even though the Islanders have a great defense. So I'm going to go Penguins in 6, and I think that there's a chance that they clinch Game 6 in overtime, and the Islanders just keep fighting and fighting and fighting until they just crash and burn. Alrighty. The other series that started was, or there's 2 other ones that started. The Wild and the Golden Knights. Marc-Andre Fleury started for Vegas yesterday. Wild come up with the 1-0 win. Joel Eriksson Ek in overtime. How do you think that series will play out?
I would like to say, for Fleury's sake, I would like to say the Golden Knights win. but I am going to go with a little bit, maybe not the fan favorite, and say that the Wild will take it. I don't know in how many games, but I'm saying the Wild are moving to round 2.
Interesting.
I feel like the Golden Knights have such a strong team and such a strong goaltending tandem, but I think if the Wild can figure them out and figure out how to get around them, then they'll really be able to, successfully navigate any cracks that the Golden Knights leave them. And the Golden Knights are a team that, like, they have so many leading goal scorers that you just need to, fire anything at the net when you play them. And so I feel like the Wild really can get away with winning. I think that because the Golden Knights are so good, they might take it to 7. But I would just absolutely love to see the Wild move on. No disrespect to Fleury. I just would love to see something a little bit different.
I won't be shocked if you're right, but I'm going to still stick with my gut and pick the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's see, how many games did I pick it in? I have it written down. In 6. I'm still going to stick with that. I think that Vegas could have won the other day, but the Wild got lucky bounces and won game 1. The Wild were a team, by the way, that we completely underestimated before the season. We picked them under in the preseason show, and they really exceeded expectations. The rookie, Kirill Kaprizov, is going to run away with the Calder Trophy. He's just been fabulous. So
Right.
I think this could go 7. I'm going to say Vegas in 6. I think that Cam Talbot might have a couple stinkers. And I think that they might see Capo Kakinen in net potentially. I'm not a Cam Talbot fan. So I'm going to say Vegas in 6, although I won't be shocked if Minnesota takes it. All right. In the other series that started yesterday was the Panthers and the Lightning. That was a wild game. And it was very, very close for the 4th game of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just like the first 3 to go to overtime. But no, Braden Point had other ideas. He scores the go-ahead goal. 5-4, the Lightning came out on top. I picked Lightning in 5 with Kucherov back. I think that team's ready to go and ready for a title defense. What do you think about that series?
I'm not going to argue, and I'm going to agree with you. I think that the Lightning will take it in 5. I think that's a strong prediction. I like the Panthers. I just definitely feel like you're right.
Yeah, Lightning in 5's the pick. I think the Panthers can win Game 2 or Game 3. I won't be shocked if this goes 6, but the Panthers, all due respect, I don't trust their goaltending. Bobrovsky had a great regular season, but he's been a disappointment in the postseason in his career. I remember he flopped at Philadelphia a couple times, and even Columbus when he was playing with the Blue Jackets more recently. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay in 5, and I think that Vasilevsky will have a better series than what he showed so far. Although Florida's offense obviously is very good. All right, the series that didn't start yet. One of them is starting tonight, the Blues and the Avalanche. This is, I think, going to be a better series than people expect. What about you?
I definitely agree. I think that you have two teams that when we looked at them, I honestly don't remember what our preseason predictions were, but I feel like you have two teams that were a little either underestimated or we didn't think that they would do too well, that are now going to go up, against each other in the postseason. I don't know what your prediction is, Madison, but I'm going to say the Avalanche take it. Don't know how many games because I'm not as precise as you are, but I'm going to say that the Avalanche move on.
I agree with you. The Avs move on. We rolled high on the Avalanche. You thought that they were a strong contender to win the Cup, as did I. The Blues, we thought we kind of we're down on the Blues, but we both picked them to go under. We thought that their point total was super high. I'm going to go Avalanche in 6. I just think that the Blues have that experience from the past. Binghamton's played in a lot of big games. They won the Cup a couple years ago, so I think that they are going to put up a good effort here against Colorado. I won't be shocked if they win Game 1 or Game 2 in Colorado, and then there's going to be whispers of, ooh, maybe the Blues can do it, and then the Avalanche go and dominate a couple games, and maybe the Blues win a Game 5, and then it goes to 6, and then the Avs close out in 6. That's how I think this plays out.
And, I would love to see former Hershey Bear Philip Grubauer move on just because I love him and I think he's a great player. So we'll see what the Avalanche can do, but I agree. I think they're moving on to round 2.
I forgot about that. I never put that together. He was a Hershey Bear. I remember Barry Trotz picked him to start in goal for the Caps in 2018. They were about to go down 0-3 to Columbus, and he was the one in net instead of Holtby because Holtby had a poor regular season. They switched back to Holtby. They win the cup. That's just something that always stood out to me.
Right. Can I ask you, Madison, really quick, what is your take? How do you feel about Holtby, being moved over to the Canucks, and now obviously look at how poorly the Canucks have done? How do you feel about that? Do you feel like someone like him, deserves maybe I don't know. Do you feel like he deserves maybe to be moved to another team? Do you think he could be successful? What do you think is going on there in Vancouver and with him? You got to feel for the guy because he's, he was with the Caps when they won the Cup, and he just has been a little bit shaky. And I thought he would be good with Vancouver, but obviously, I just don't know about the team in front of him.
That's a good question. I think there's a chance he's exposed to Seattle. I think he's a Seattle candidate. And he could be.
I was just gonna say. I was gonna say that I think you're gonna say that they're gonna expose him and Seattle could take him. But when you look at someone like him, and then you also look at poor Matt Murray, I mean, it just they're just not the same.
Yeah, Holtby I think is a Seattle candidate, and then Thatcher Demko. I'm a big fan of Thatcher Demko. I always felt that Vancouver was better with him. And they played well with him in the postseason last year when they almost knocked off Vegas. Remember that?
Yes, no, I do remember that. I think he's a great kid. He has a bright future ahead of him, and I think he should stay in Vancouver.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's a chance that Holtby either gets traded or he's exposed to Seattle. Although I have no idea when the expansion draft is. I just remember before the year I asked you about the Kraken, about people who could potentially go there. As we were talking about the Golden Knights earlier, Fleury's starting over Leonard for them. Fleury's been better than Leonard this year. And I remember you texted me once that Leonard was with the Silver Knights. He got hurt in the middle of the year. I just remembered that. So
right.
then Fleury pretty
Leonard
much took...
was with the Silver Knights for one game of conditioning when he was hurt. They sent him to Henderson, and then they pulled him right back up to Vegas. Not so similar to Michael Kempney, who played a couple games with the Bears, and after that incidental contact with one of the ice scrapers, he's now injured again and did not play the rest of the season since then.
Yeah, we're going to get to another team in the postseason that had to send 2 players to the AHL. Well, I'll tell you who that was in a couple of seconds here. The Jets and the Oilers, that series, I believe, will start on either tomorrow or Wednesday. I think this is going to be a series that will have a lot of goals in it, but I don't, I think that the Jets have a shot here, but I don't know how real of a shot here, but I'm going to go with the Oilers, and I'm going to say, what did I write down, 5 or 6? I'm so bad, Steve. I can't believe I forgot my predictions here. Let's go with the Oilers in 6. Yes, that's what I thought I said, so... What's your take on the Oilers-Jets series?
I was gonna say Oilers in 6. I really was, but the problem is I have not watched enough of the Canadian teams play to tell you what I truly believe. So that's just a pure guess. The only team I really watched as far as Canada was the Canucks, but obviously there wasn't much to watch, sadly.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna agree with you there. I think Oilers in 6. Do you see them moving on past the second round if they move on or no?
Ooh, I don't know. I think that's the weakest foursome of the divisions in terms of the playoff teams. I really do. I just felt that some of the teams in that division underachieved, like Calgary and even Vancouver to some extent, just underachieved this year. I think that division's a little weak. Montreal, we'll get to them. I think Toronto has the best shot of those teams as the Hurricanes take a 2-1 lead here on Nashville here. Let's see who scored this goal. Former Penguin Jordan Stahl scored, Steve.
Really? Oh, now it just updated for me. Here we go. Now I just saw it.
Yeah.
Well, what did we say? I'm telling you, I think the Hurricanes are going to move on. I just told you I'm not too sure how long it'll take them.
Yeah, the Hurricanes, I think, will probably move on too. But yeah, I think Toronto is the best shot of the Canadian teams to get to the Final Four, which is going to be the semifinals this year, not the conference finals, because obviously no conferences this year. It's just the 4 divisions. But yeah, I don't know if the Oilers will get by round 2. Maybe if Montreal randomly upsets Toronto, which I doubt. Let's just pivot to that series. I'm going to say the Maple Leafs sweep them. Carey Price isn't 100%, and Carey Price and Brendan Gallagher had to play with the AHL team. I believe it was tonight. They both played in an exhibition game with Montreal's exhibition team, which is the Laval Rocket.
AHL team?
The Laval Rocket.
The Laval Rocket, yes.
The Laval Rocket, that's where they are tonight. Brendan Gallagher and Carey Price. So, if Price has to do what he did to the Penguins last year if they want to win, but I'm just not sold on this Canadiens team at all. Apparently, Kasperi Kotkaniemi and Cole Caulfield, they're sitting in Game 1, they were apparently scratched. I don't agree with that decision. I think Toronto sweeps them. I really do. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
It is very interesting.
Wow, no, I agree. I think that the Maple Leafs will sweep. If anything, the Canadiens maybe get one. But I don't see them, I see the Maple Leafs probably taking a 2-0, 3-0 lead, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, to me, it's because of the health of Price. I think this is a sweep. If Price was healthy, if I knew Price was 100%, I'd say probably 5 or even 6, potentially because of the rivalry factor.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm going to say sweep because of Price's health. But if Price is healthy, then I think that this could go a little bit longer than we think. All right, so we talked about the playoff series. In the preseason, we did that over-under show. I was listening to it on my way home from work today just because of things we said and whatnot. And then I have it written down in my notes of who picked what. A couple ones we got right. The Philadelphia Flyers, you famously thought that they were going to be a disappointment. You are absolutely correct, but I don't think either of us thought that they'd miss the postseason. What's your thoughts on the Flyers?
What was that? I'm sorry, say that again, Madison.
The Flyers, what was your thought on them this season? I thought they badly underachieved.
I thought they badly underachieved too, and I also think that when you look at the Flyers team who has the Phantoms are not a bad team. They're AHL affiliate. They have good players and some pretty good rookies. You just wonder, why are the Flyers doing so bad? I think that a lot of the Flyers' problems reside in net. I think they can't find a strong goaltender that continually performs well. And like I hoped, they underachieved, which is just, to my liking.
Right. Yeah, Carter Hart was definitely a huge disappointment this year. I'm wondering if the coach survives, Alain Vigneault, which I think he does. If they were going to make a move, I think they would have done it by now. A team we also got correct in terms of over-under. We both went over on my favorite team, the New York Rangers, but they did not make the postseason. What are your thoughts on their front office changes and their head coaching change?
I think it was needed with how they placed this season. I just feel really bad for you, Madison, and I feel bad for the team because I seriously thought they would make a push for the postseason, and they didn't. We can only imagine what would have happened if they had moved up and the Islanders moved down. That would have made for a really great couple weeks at work, but I definitely feel like they have some potential for next season. Let's see where they end up with the draft and who they end up with. More so their place will come with, or who they pick will come with their placement. But I feel like they have just so much more potential than they gave this season, which is why I'm pretty upset, about where they ended up at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I was disappointed too. I was surprised they made the front office changes. I thought that the GM could have potentially been fired, But I was surprised they let go of John Davidson. He was a former broadcaster for the Rangers. He's beloved by the fan base. I know a lot of Rangers Twitter was not happy with the John Davidson firing, but some of the moves him and Jeff Gorton made were great and others were not. I agree with their owner, James Dolan, who I despise because I don't think he's done a good job with the Knicks and the Rangers. But although the Knicks are in the postseason this year, but that's a different league and a different story for a different day. But the Rangers, I just think that they just had a ton of bad luck. They had some COVID issues, most notably Mika Zibanejad earlier in the year. Their coach had COVID, but they performed well when he wasn't there. I think that Chris Knobloch should be the next head coach of the New York Rangers. I think you would be fired up if they hired him. I know you like the AHL a lot. And I think that Knobloch would be really good. I think he could be like the Mike Sullivan that, like how he was the Scranton Wilkes-Barre coach, or Wilkes-Barre-Scranton, and then they promoted him, and then they won a couple cups. I'm not saying that the Rangers are going to win a couple cups, but I could see a world where they make a jump into like the postseason next year if they hire Knobloch. And those few games where he coached them, they played great. Granted, it was against the Philadelphia Flyers, and those one of them was on national TV, and then the other one they kicked their butts too.
Wasn't that the games that they scored, like 8 or... Wasn't it 8 goals or so? Was it more?
9 and 8, I think.
9, right?
The game that was on national TV was 9, and the game that was on the local TV was 8. I think the scores were... I think one was 9-0, and the other one was 8-3. And I think... I want to say Shesterkin started in both games, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think Knobloch's in play. I know they interviewed Gerard Gallant, the former Golden Knights coach that took him to the final, and obviously he coached the Florida Panthers a while back as well. Claude Julien, the ex-Bruin and Canadiens coach, I won't be shocked if he gets the interview, but if I had to predict who's the next head coach of the New York Rangers, I'm going to say it's Chris Knobloch. I just have a gut feeling about this, and I... would be really fired up if he was the choice. A team we were wrong about, we made fun of this team in the preseason because they were bad. They were still bad, but they just went over their point total where we thought they were going to go under, and that's the Detroit Red Wings. They surprisingly went over their point total. They traded away Anthony Mantha to the Capitals, who has been very streaky with them, so that's one that we got wrong. Another one we got wrong was your favorite Western team, the Canucks. We alluded to them earlier.
Right.
We were way wrong about the Vancouver Canucks. Calgary, we were wrong on. I'm trying to think on top of my head. I'm actually going to look at the list now, but those were the couple that jumped to mind, whether we were right or wrong about. So you were right about the Penguins going over. I picked under.
And I picked over.
Yeah.
And remind me, what was the point total again?
For the Pens, it was 69.5, and they won the division, too.
Wow. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. We were right about the Bruins going under, although they finished third in the division. We were correct about the Islanders going over. They finished fourth in the division, though, but I thought they'd be either third or fourth in the division. We were absolutely right about the New Jersey Devils going under, and we made fun of them before the season. We were right about Montreal going under, but they still made the postseason. I was right about Dallas going under. That's a team that underachieved this season. You thought they'd go over. I wonder what's going to happen to that team. They were a huge disappointment after making the final last year.
Right.
Yeah, I was right about Buffalo going under, but I didn't think that they'd be that bad. Yeah, that was your biggest miss. You went over on the Buffalo Sabres.
That was... Madison, do you think that was my biggest miss of the preseason predictions?
Yes, probably. My biggest miss, probably... Ooh, that's a good one if you ask me. I'd say I was big on Calgary. I thought Calgary could have won that North Division, but they badly underachieved. They made the coaching change in season, so I'd say that was my biggest miss. Although we missed badly on the Canucks. We were right about the Flyers.
Yes, Madison, can we back up to the Canucks for 1 second? What was the Canucks point total? What was the point total in the preseason show? What was it at?
62.5.
And we thought they would go...
Over. We both had over.
Now, keep in mind last year during the during the playoffs, they took Vegas to 7. They took Vegas to 7. So, I mean, I don't think it was that bad of a prediction. I just think that the team ended up, playing the same Canadian teams over and over again. I think it really got to them. And then once they got COVID, I mean, it was just so... from what I heard, it was different variants of the virus, and it played different parts on their body and things like that, and their actual physical health. So I think the team was just pretty ill-stricken throughout the year. Are you watching this Carolina-Nashville game? Because the Predators just tied it.
Yes, I did just see that. That was a nice goal.
But anyways, getting back to what you were saying.
Right.
No, I think the reason we took them over was because they had done so well last season, and especially in the postseason. But let's see what happens in their front. Let's see if anything happens in their front office once their season ends, because their season is still going, and then moving on to next year as well.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to move on from their coach. Probably not, but that organization, I feel like, always tends to make questionable firings at weird times after they overachieve and stuff. So I could be wrong with them. We shall see. Trying to see what other ones we hit and missed. We were right about Tampa going under, and they still finished in third in their division. So that was one that we got right. We were right about San Jose under 51.5. They were terrible. Although they were frisky in some games and won me some money on some overs. Oh, here's a miss. We thought Arizona was going to be good.
That's both of us missed on that one.
Yeah. That was one that we missed, and we both thought over. We both thought that Darcy Kemper was going to be a Vezina candidate. What do you think went wrong for them this year?
To be honest, Madison, I didn't really watch too many of the West Division games, so I couldn't tell you. I mean, you probably have a better idea as far as watching their games and watching the team, but I just don't know. I didn't really watch, enough of their games to know what went wrong. But what do you think would be the primary reason they just didn't live up to what we thought?
I would say because some of their young guys didn't develop. That would be like my argument. And some of their veterans didn't really play to the back of their hockey cards. I know they moved on from their coach, which I like their coach, Rick Tocchet. I think that's another guy that could be in play for the Rangers, by the way. I like the job he did in Arizona last year. So I won't be shocked if he's in play for the Ranger job. But yeah, the lack of their development, I think, hurt them. But I think that's still a franchise that could be on the right track. I think that's a bounce-back team potentially for next year, depending on moves they make in the offseason. A team that was a part of our favorite team's division. We disagreed on their point total, the Columbus Blue Jackets, but they were in the Central Division this year. You went under on them. I went over. John Tortorella got fired. That was one that you were right about, and I completely whiffed on Columbus. I thought that was a playoff team. Oh, and I did say it was either be them or Nashville that was in the 4th spot in that division. It ended up being Nashville. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that, but I also do remember me predicting that they would go under.
Yeah, you did say under for Columbus. So maybe their goalies just weren't up to what we thought. They had some injuries. Pierre-Luc Dubois was someone that got traded, surprisingly. I did not think that they were going to trade him. And I remember saying that in the preseason podcast, and he did wind up being traded. So that was something I was wrong about. Alrighty. Something I want to talk about with you before we go. The American Hockey League season just ended. Who do you think would have won the Calder Cup this year if they had the playoffs?
Do you need my honest answer, Madison?
I know where you're going.
Enough?
I know where you're going, but make the case.
Yes, the case proves itself. Honestly, I don't really like, I really usually don't enjoy just sticking up for my own team. I think the Hershey Bears obviously would have had a really strong press for the Cup. They won the North Division, and they won the McGregor-Kilpatrick trophy for the best team in the league. And I believe there's 2 divisions or 3 that are going to be participating in a postseason for the AHL, but the North Division isn't one of them. I also think with how weird the AHL was set up this year, it was very difficult to see how teams played, especially being for a team like the Bears. The only teams they played was Wilkes-Barre Scranton, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and the Binghamton Devils, in which we now know Binghamton is no longer an AHL team. They've moved up to Utica, with the Canucks affiliate going to Abbotsford, British Columbia, and we'll see how that works out for them. But looking specifically, at my team, the Bears, I think that looking towards the development of their rookies, Connor McMichael has an insane future in the NHL. I really think he's going to be such a good player for the Caps. Hopefully, I see them keeping him on the Bears probably through at least half of next season, and then maybe pulling him up to their roster. But I guess we'll just have to see what happens. But no, I'm going to say that the Hershey Bears had an extremely strong chance to win the Cup this year.
Yeah, I think it would have been either your team, either Toronto, the Marlies, or even Lehigh Valley. I thought those couple teams had a great shot at the Calder Cup. Is there anybody in the AHL that you could see potentially being called up for the playoffs? You mentioned a name I thought about, Connor McMichael. I think he could help the Capitals as a bottom 6 guy. Spencer Knight's another one who actually saw some time with the Panthers this year, 4-0 with the Panthers. Would you be surprised if you saw some teams call up AHL guys to help their teams in the postseason?
I would not be surprised at all. I also wouldn't be surprised, when you look at teams like Wilkes-Barre Scranton, their affiliation with Pittsburgh, they have so many guys that throughout the regular season, just moved back and forth so much and have played for the Penguins. You saw like P.O. Joseph made a pretty big impact in a couple games for the Pens. Anthony Angelo, he always moves up and down. For the Capitals and the Bears, you look at someone like Garrett Pilon, who just made his rookie debut. I want to say it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Mike Scarbosa, who usually leads the Bears with goals, but with this out-of-whack season was just kind of stuck on the taxi squad, so that didn't really do him well. But seasoned veteran Matt Molson, who's our captain, who I'm hoping will be back for next season, someone like him, I don't think you're going to see called up just because I don't think they're going to call him up to play in the postseason. But I guess you'll see. And look at, for the Capitals, look at Daniel Sprong. I mean, he was a pretty in-between AHL, NHL guy, and the Caps have seemed to keep him on their regular roster, and he makes a difference. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens for some of these teams moving into the postseason, especially because you can basically just call up whoever.
Yeah, there's a couple other guys I thought about for this. Peyton Kirby of Vegas, someone that was bouncing around with the Silver Knights and the Golden Knights. Kirby, I think, saw some time with the Golden Knights and a lot of time with the Silver Knights. Matthew Boldy of the Wild, maybe. Ryan Suzuki of Carolina. Spencer Knight's the one that sticks out to me as the guy that I could see that played in the AHL this year that will have an impact potentially in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Florida Panthers. All right, Steve, it was a pleasure to have you on today. I wish we did this longer, but maybe for the conference finals we'll have you back on, maybe face-to-face, or maybe we'll do this FaceTime thing again.
Yes, for sure. No, thank you so much for having me, Madison. I appreciate it. As always, I appreciate, going through our picks and seeing what may come about. And I'm pretty excited to hear or see what is going to turn out of this postseason and where we'll end up, where we'll be this time next week and then in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and following, specifically looking at like the Capitals, the Penguins, teams I follow pretty heavily. I guess we'll just have to see what turns out. I mean, it's obvious that the Stanley Cup playoffs this year are back to, I would say, back to pretty normal with the exception of the realigned divisions. Games that are so close, games that are won, with like 1 or 2 minutes left and then going into overtime. It's just that everything you want in a playoff game, in a playoff hockey game. So far, it's been there. So I really hope that it just continues moving towards the second round and the semifinals and the final.
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty, I'll talk to you soon.